Sports Rap Podcast right here on Heat 100 Radio, heat100radio.com. You can get us on the TuneIn app, or you can just tune in to heat100radio.com, or Facebook Live Sports Rap Podcast LLC is the group page. Also simultaneous on Instagram at sportsrap_D is where you can get it. And if you can't get in today, by Wednesday at the latest, video will be up on YouTube, and some audio will probably be up tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest as well. But nonetheless, I'm here today, and really good Monday. Coming off a good weekend, some good football games. You see I'm wearing my Eagles gear, so I'm in support of my guys. But aside from that, and we're going to get to that, but aside from that, it was just a really good football weekend, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about it, is what we do. But as always, beginning what we do, we got some news and some updates to give to you to keep you up to date what's going on in the sports world. Other than the actual games, we got some other stuff that we like to give you. We always like to keep you in tune. So here we go. Maya Moore officially announces her retirement from the WNBA. The Alabama basketball player Darius Miles was arrested for capital murder. He was ultimately also charged with providing the weapon in this shooting. 49ers D'Amico Ryans is expected to meet and interview with 4 teams. So, listen, Mr. Levert 216, thanks for tuning in. That's the IG. Folks, I'm there too. Instagram Live, when I see you join in, I will definitely give you a wave or give you a shout out as well. Also on Facebook, because I'm doing some double things here. I'm doing some simultaneous here. When you get on Instagram, when you get on the Facebook, make sure you let me know who you are when you comment so I can acknowledge you as due. So D'Amico Ryans, Baldy's still part. Mr. Levert 216, Baldy is still a part of it. That's my guy. We're going to talk to him because, we are show divided right now. But we're going to talk about that when we get to our Super Bowl. We get to our NFC Championship and our NFL talk. Mel, my guy, all the way from down North Carolina. Thanks for tuning in, bro. I know you had a good weekend. Tell my homie, sorry. Her other fans, her cohorts brought that on when they decided to talk smack. They should have took a lesson from Minnesota when Minnesota came in here trying to talk smack. So we'll see. But thanks for tuning in, bro. Yes. Okay, thanks for that. Like I said, on Facebook, I've seen a couple people chime in. Again, let me know who you are so I can give you your shout outs and let you know that I acknowledge you as a tuned in member. Continuing, Aaron Donald studs the NFL with the apparent retirement reference, but then I saw a couple days later that he might have changed that. So, don't really know about what's going on with Aaron Donald. We'll see. Georgia football player and a staff member were killed in an auto accident, and this was shortly after their repeat championship, which is a sad story, which kind of dampens, in my opinion, in some ways, dampens the celebration of them winning back-to-back titles. Or it could also go the other way. It could also mean even more. Now that you lost two members of the family, and it could mean a lot more. Let's see, where are we? Three main candidates have emerged for the Broncos vacancy: Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Dan Quinn. So I think that's down to 2 now because Harbaugh has stated that he will return to Michigan. So it's 2 there, and there's an argument, like I mentioned earlier, D'Amico Ryans, he could possibly get an interview for that job as well. So when I get to the football talk, there's another thing I'm going to add in there, about how some things could change for some of the teams that are in the playoffs, still in the playoffs right now. Some things could change, especially in the NFC. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Again, and here it is. Great segue to that. Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon emerges as the top candidate for the Texans job. We'll see. The Chargers fired their offensive coordinator after Peyton is coaching the Cowboys next year. Who was that on Facebook? Somebody just typed in Peyton is coaching the Cowboys next year. Please tell me who you are so I can acknowledge you. Like I said, I want to acknowledge you for your comments, so please let me know who you are. Somebody just typed in Peyton will be coaching the Cowboys next year, and that's a reference to Sean Payton. The Bucks. I'm sorry. The Chargers fired their offensive coordinator after their playoff collapse. The Bucks also fired Byron Leftwich. The Browns have hired Jim Schwartz as their new defensive coordinator. Brady says he's taking it one day at a time. The Chargers will definitely hire Sean Payton. Tell me who you are. I hear your comments and I'm reading it for you. But just let me know who you are in the next comment that you make. Brady says he's taking it one day at a time, and on his future. I could talk quite a bit about how I feel about that situation because I honestly saw throughout the season. My guy, Richard, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. I actually am not really in a great way about that situation. Like I said, I think that situation is going to play itself out the way it will, and I'm just going to let it happen. I'm not going to really harp too much on it. But, again, throughout this season, I felt like Tom Brady showed where he is now in his career. The team was 8-9. They got in the playoffs. They got in the playoffs because they won a division. 8-9, a game below 500, winning the division. So it tells us all what we know about that division. It's a bad division, poor division. The other side of it is his play was just not what everyone will say we are used to as far as Tom Brady when everyone calls him to go. And you all know how I feel about that situation. We're not going to get into that part right now. But it showed. It also showed in the wild card game against the Cowboys last week. He's not the same. And I've always said that this is, I think, the toughest thing. Jay Myers, my guy, appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in on the IG. Richard says, Brady needs a perfect offense around him now. He's starting to show his. Yeah, that's what I was kind of alluding to, Rich. I was saying that, like, you see what it is. And what I've always said was that a lot of these athletes have had great careers, solid careers, or in their minds, or let me say solid careers or great careers. Then it gets to a point in their mind where they get older in age, the body can't do what they wanted to do as they were doing it before. And it's a hard grab for them at that level, especially at that professional level. It's a hard grasp for them to pick up on that and say, look, I can't do it. My brain says do it, but the body says no. Like I said, when I make this reference, I always reference the Kobe Bryant documentary where Kobe Bryant basically said, he said, my mind was telling me I can do things, but the body couldn't do it, and I knew that was time. But again, like I said, I'm not upset or discouraged, and I don't feel some type of way. I just take it for what it is, and I understand that for athletes, especially at that pro level, when you get to the point where you get older and you've had a pretty good career, a solid career, or a great career, it's very hard to come to grips with the situation that you can't do it like you used to, and you may be time to start looking at hanging up the shoes, hanging up the cleats, hanging up the hockey, putting up the hockey stick, whatever, walling the baseball bat, whatever you need to do. It gets to that point, but it's tough. Mr. Levert 216, yeah, we're going to definitely talk about that matchup in just a few minutes. Let's see, where were we? LIV Golf is on the verge of announcing the TV deal. When I talked about this way back when, I said that I felt like something was going to happen, and I was also very curious as to where their funding came from for the purses that they were putting out, and how they needed to have this media presence or needed to be focused on some stuff to get them out. And now apparently they're announcing a TV deal. So we'll see what happens with that and how everything plays out still with them and the PGA. Former NFL player Jarrell Poe was arrested on kidnapping charges. The Titans hire 49ers Director of Player Personnel to be their next GM, and his name is Ron Carthen. Harbaugh said earlier set to return to Michigan. A Michigan staffer was placed on administrative leave amid police investigation, and later he was fired due to that same police investigation. LeBron vents last week about refs not making calls, which is nothing new, something that happens with him a lot. The Dolphins fired their defensive coordinator after 3 seasons. The Ravens are confident that they can reach a deal with Lamar Jackson. The Ravens and offensive coordinator Greg Roman agreed to part ways. Usain Bolt was apparently scammed out of his entire life savings. This was apparently about, let's see, it was apparently about 12 mil was estimated, and they left him with 12,000. And its reports are out that Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes has suffered a high ankle sprain. And we know those high ankle sprains, we know how those injuries can be. That's one of those injuries that is nagging. Jay Myers on the IG. Folks, I'm here too. I'm on IG too, at sportsweb_D. Check me out. Tune in, let me know you here. I'll shout you out. Jay Myers, he says, with the kidnapping, you say kidnapping? Yeah. If it was his own kid, that's wild. Yeah, it's really wild. I didn't really get into a lot of details on that story, but I just thought it was weird, when I saw it. So I added it in today. So right now, and I thank everybody that's tuned in. Mr. Levert, 216, Jay Myers, my guy. My other guy on Facebook, Richard Drummond. The last one on Instagram, Mel, my guy from down in North Carolina, Eagles fan, another house divided down there. So we got some things to get to, folks. We got some stuff that we need to get to. First thing I want to do is I just want to do this real quick. Had to give a shout out, that applause to, you see the hat I'm wearing it, you see the t-shirt, my Philadelphia Eagles, for their destroying of the New York Giants over the weekend. Yeah, that Bolt situation was crazy. I think it was some real estate stuff, which is usually how them guys get got. But yeah, you look into that, because they said he was had 12 million, Jay, and he left him with 12,000, which is crazy. I mean, but then again, some people might argue and say, at least they left him with something. But it's a shame, that all those guys, a lot of those guys get got like that. Yes, sir. Clap it up for the birds. Yes, indeed. So, where was I just now? All right, Melly, fly, Eagles fly. That's what I'm talking about. So, we gave some applause for the birds, and we're going to start there with that game Saturday. Even though that was Saturday, it was still the weekend. So we're going to go back to Saturday, and we're going to start that game. Saturday night game at the Link. And just a little tidbit, the NFL gave us, Philadelphia fans, 12 hours of drinking. Let me see. Missed that comment from you, Rich. I missed that comment from you, Rich. Copy it and resend it again. I was running my mouth real quick, so I missed it, and it went out. Yeah, so the Eagles and the NFL did Philadelphia fans a favor. They thought they tricked us when they scheduled the Eagles game for 8:15, and we all know the tailgating, and we know how we do down at the Link. So parking lots didn't open till 4. When they open the games at 1, they open early. But late game, night game, parking lots don't open till 4. Ha. The NFL underestimated the crazy, crafty, intellectual looking for a party. Any reason to look for a party, Philadelphia fans. So there was a lacrosse game scheduled in the parking in Wells Fargo Center. So you know what the Eagles fans did? They bought tickets to that game so they could start the drinking early and already be there. So NFL, whatever you did in your research, try it again because it didn't work. It didn't work at all. We got our you know what in and we did what we did. And then our team, our guys got on the field and did what they did. So real quick, they always say it's tough to beat a team twice in a season. Even tougher to beat a team 3 times. And the Eagles did it this year. Beat the Giants. Rich's comment says, how about them Eagles? Pundits saying the Giants are going to beat the Eagles. I said, if the Eagles run the ball with the best O-line, we'll take care of it. Absolutely. And I think, like I was telling people a lot too, Rich, I told people the Giants fans that brought on that kicking should have thought about and went back and replayed and remembered what happened when Minnesota tried the same thing. So what happened to Minnesota? And in Minnesota, it was quite the opposite. Minnesota came down and drove down and scored right away and was hype and never saw the end zone again. In our game against the Giants, they didn't see the end zone until the third quarter. But nonetheless, 38-7. Ironically, same score a few years ago when we beat Minnesota. Same score, same date, January 21st, a few years ago. That game against Minnesota was the championship game to get to the Super Bowl. This one was the divisional round to get to the NFC Championship. So, we look at, I can go through the stats like I had intended to. And it's a lot of things you can talk about, a lot of things you can take away from this game. You can take away that the Eagles were the dominant team, the far more superior team. Rich, Eagles defensive line was dominant. Reddick was all over the field. Absolutely. Jay Myers on the Instagram said not even a field goal after that. That's tough. Yeah, that shows where this defense is. It shows the growth of our defensive coordinator. On the other side of the ball, it shows the growth of our quarterback. It shows the improvements made to the team by our GM, Big Jim 71. Thanks for tuning in. It shows the improvement of the coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball. So there are improvements from last season all the way across the board. And I think most importantly, and it's been talked about slightly, I'm to give reference Jalen Hurts as in the conversation for the MVP. I saw a tweet, I think yesterday or the day before, maybe it was yesterday, because they played Saturday, it was yesterday, and it showed, and it was kind of referencing how in the Kansas City game, when Patrick Mahomes got hurt, Chad Henne comes in, takes a 98-yard drive and scores a touchdown. It was kind of referencing like, but Gardner Minshew's not doing that, so Jalen Hurts is very much important to our team. And I said that same thing when he sat out those 2 games and then came back. They were going to take it easy. But then, like Saturday's game, they're slowly bringing him back up to where we want him to be. He said he feels better, feels a lot better. And like you say, from what we saw, from what we've seen the entire season, and I'm just going to run through his stats for yesterday. You saw what a healthy Hurts is to the Eagles, and he is an MVP player. Yes, indeed. His stats Sunday and Saturday, I'm sorry. And some people may argue average, mediocre. 16 to 24, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Difference was the Eagles ran the ball. He didn't have to throw the ball too much. Like, they outmatched the Giants in a lot of areas. It's been ongoing. It's been conversation for several years. The okay and the praying hands. Who was that? Please let me know who you are. It's been ongoing dialogue for quite a few years now. about the Eagles' offensive line, and let's start there with that one facet of where we are with this football thing and this recap of this game. Because the recap of this game is going to be somewhat boring, if you will, for some people, because it's totally one-sided. And you can argue that I'm biased, but no, I'm not going to be biased today. I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm going to tell you some things that I saw within the Eagles game, and I'm going to tell you some things. Okay, Lowell Rich, thank you, brother. And I'm going to tell you some things that I saw in the 49ers game yesterday. Jay Myers on IG, he says we barely lost those 2 games without Hurts. That should say a lot about our team. It definitely does say a lot. Giants couldn't match up how physical our O-line is running up. Our running game, yeah. Great points, Jay Myers and Mel. And again, what I was getting to is I said, like, the offensive line, like I said, we'll start there. Been in the dialogue, been in conversation for the last several years. Even when it got to the point where things were getting shaky, when we got to the whole firing of Doug Peterson and all the Carson Wentz situation, even in the midst of all that, there was still always talk about this Eagles offensive line being the best, being one of the best, if not the best. Right now, last 2 games, same opponent. We finished the season against the Giants, and we're right. They rested players because they were locked into where they were in the playoffs. See, and I totally get that, understand that. And I'm not discrediting it. I'm not going to discredit that game. Okay? I'm going to take it for what it is. We should have beat them. We could have beat them anyway, but let's call a spade a spade. They rested players, key players. We were the better team. Our quarterback was coming back. We should have beat them than we did. Plain and simple. We get a week off. They play. Amazing game against Minnesota. 2 things I took from that game. And this is just backtracking a little bit. The Minnesota game, Minnesota Giants game. The Giants went in there with the mind frame riding their momentum, figuring we don't have anything to lose. This is a team that we can go in and we can probably get this team. On the other side of the ball, Minnesota basically showed you who they were. They're kind of like the Dallas Cowboys. You don't know what you're going to get. And the Giants really, really beat them. Went all out and beat them. They attempted to ride that momentum in. And the Eagles beat Minnesota. The Eagles are a more well-rounded team. We're a better team. And again, that offensive line starts that off. Giants beat versus Eagle game. 63-point differential. Giants are the superior team. How people didn't think the Eagles would show up. Yeah, Rich. You know, it's crazy how people thought that anyway. But nonetheless, it is what it is. And again, like I said, the offensive line, in my opinion, right now is the best in the NFL. 200 and let me see, what was our total team rushing yards on Saturday? So we had 44 rushing attempts, leading into 268 total rushing yards. Okay, like I said, 154. It was still almost 200 yards passing. But, like I said, the running game, and what I've been saying all season long is these coaches on the Eagles, this coaching staff has improved. They learned some things. They learned some things about their players, their personnel. They did what I always say coaches, in my opinion, should do more of. And this goes back to plenty of conversations we had. Let's see, 268 yards. If the Eagles rush like that, they will beat any team in the NFL. Yes, I do think so too, Rich. My sister, thanks for tuning in on the IG side. Listen, I talked to y'all about her too. Men 2 Sports Management, Ladies First Sports Management. Check her out. You know, that's my girl, my sister from the Chi. Let's see. I got a quick question. Just Jay Myers. Do you think the Eagles would have made 4 straight conference championships with Andy Reid? Actually, they did. They only got the advance to the Super Bowl once, but they did. This team, where they are right now, I think if they keep everything together, and you know, one of the reasons that I was going to get to this, and I might still have time to, is Saul Carter said 4 reasons why Howie Roseman should be Executive of the Year. Because he set this team up to be successful for the next several years. And I can easily sit here and maybe even quite honestly say we didn't expect it to be this good. Okay? We expected our team to be better, especially with that draft night trade and we pick up A.J. Brown. We knew Devontae Smith was going to be better, and we knew that Jalen Hurts was going to be better. We didn't think he was going to be MVP better, but we are going to take it, and we love it. But, again, Eagles' offensive line, it starts there. When they get mean, dirty, and nasty, like Richard said, there's not a team that can beat us if we can run the ball like that. And a lot of things that people have been also saying, adding in on the national stage, is the fact that with the way that we can run the ball, with the offensive line that we have, with the defense, and I'm going to get to that in a second, we have tools. Like Nate Burleson said this morning, I heard him say, he said, you talk about teams that have weaknesses. He said, right now, the way the Eagles are looking, there's not a weakness. And we know what A.J. Brown is. We know what Devontae Smith is. Dallas Goedert, arguably one of the best tight ends in the league. Again, we get to that offensive line. And then, like we said, with Howie Roseman, the pieces that he brought in, the 3 running backs. Boston Scott is the giant killer. Miles Sanders had a career year. Kenny Gainwell is that consistent third down back that can do both, run between the tackles, run between the tackles and run outside and catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, with that being said, and then you mix in a quarterback who has shown you this year that he can make all the throws. Well, real quick, Mr. Levert 216, he says he commends Lane Johnson for playing last game. I look at their roster. They have 2 other tackles, a 6'6" that can fill in. You cannot put a right guard at the tackle spot unless it was big old right guard Brooks. Yeah, that you make sense. That makes sense. I get that, and I do applaud Lane Johnson as well myself. So, getting back to the thing, you add in a quarterback that's mobile, that has shown you that he's worked on his technique, his game. He can make the throws, and he can extend plays, and he can run the ball. And he's not a tough tackle. He's not an easy tackle, rather. Yes, sir. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you tuning in, bro. Wish you all the best over there, man. Do your thing. I see you. Every time you post something, I see you. So keep doing your thing over there, bro. I'm watching. So now let's move to the defensive side of the ball. You talk about defenses and you talk about matchups. You see what Lane Johnson means to that line, and he is a wall out there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You move to the defensive side of the ball. Another case, in my opinion, for Howie Roseman getting a very good look in the shot at Executive of the Year. Defensive line was pretty stout last season. You drafted the rookie, the run stopper, Jordan Day was good from a solid program, national championship program in Georgia. Plug up that middle. And the guys we had last year were good. They're solid guys. You bring in a Hassan Reddick. We had a glitch in the program in the first loss against Washington. You go out and you get Linval Joseph. You also, prior to that, you made Lonnie, my guy, long time, brother. Good for tuning in, and thanks for tuning in, bro. Then you make that trade for Robert Quinn, which was a steal because Chicago's still paying most of that salary, so that was a steal. Then you look up, and again, they bring in Ndamukong Suh. So you have a defense that has defensive front that has 70 total sacks for the season. 70. Let's see. Mel says, always a pleasure, good bro. Praying for a terrific year for you and the family. Definitely cannot wait to see you guys soon and to be back in the studio with you real soon. Listen, man, you got to see here. Anytime you up this way, give me the heads up. Let me know. We can work things out and get it put together. Hey, Lonnie, it's good, man. Working, doing my thing. Glad you tuned in as well. Our defensive front now is like two starting defensive fronts. And then you have better linebackers. You're bringing in Kaiser White. I mean, TJ Edwards is emerging, but then you bring in a Kaiser White. So you got better linebacker play. And then you got that secondary. You made another trade with the Saints, and you get CJ Gardner-Johnson, ball hawk. How he should be GM of the year. You have Joseph and Sue on the bench, Quinn, and now you add Reddick, Kaiser White, Edwards. And yeah, listen, I'm getting to that right now, too. And then you add in that ball-hawking, hungry secondary. Two corners that could arguably be shutdown corners. James Bradbury. Yes, plus CJ, absolutely, Rich. James Bradbury, big play Slay. And like you said, you have an injury to Vontae Maddox, who was becoming a very, very good slot corner for you due to injury. You bring CJ back, and because of the pickup and the play of Blankenship, you can throw him now, CJ, the ball hawk, you can throw CJ in the slot, which they did against the Giants. Yes, sir, my sister, the IPWB League, tuned in. Thank you. So now you got CJ in the slot. You got the young Blankenship and Epson safety, but you got the corners that, like I said, arguably lockdown corners. So getting to that, and I know I got some San Francisco fans. Like I said, I started out as a show divided. My guys are both 49ers fans, so I'm outnumbered here, 2-1, if you will, 1-1, whatever. I'm the Eagles fan. 49ers fans are usually in the building. None of them are here today, so it is what it is. But what I wanted to get to, and it's especially now that I get to it before I get away from it, and I noticed some things yesterday. And when, I'm going to get to this, and I'm going to take a break. Then I'm going to come back, and we're going to talk about some of the other games and some things I saw in the other games as well. But while we're here, we talking the Eagles, the 49ers game, which is our next opponent, they've got to fly here. They come here. They got to come to South Philly. Like we said, we got the number 1 seed. Everything goes through South Philly. All right? So, I saw some things yesterday. And I'm sure when I talk to some 49ers fans, they're going to have some things to say about it. It's expected, but I'm not going in cocky. I'm going in confident. As for everything that I just told you about the Eagles team, everything that you've seen from the Eagles team, and still everything you've seen from the 49ers team. And I'm not saying that they're a slouch, okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I noticed some things yesterday, and I was talking to a friend of mine right before I came on, and I mentioned this to him as well. I said, although Brock Purdy has had solid, really good actually, season in wake of their injuries, I also, like I did last year, I applauded their coach. And I can't not applaud their coach. I'm not a 49ers fan or whatever, but, doing what I do here, like I always like to do, I call a spade a spade. I give credit where credit is due, even with my own teams that I like. And when they're not doing good, I'm going to talk about it. And with my own teams, I'm going to talk about it as well. But I give a lot of credit to Shanahan because what I used to say was he made things a lot simpler and a lot easier for Jimmy G when he did. And in essence, he did the same thing, in my opinion, for Brock Purdy. Made the game easy for him without really having to take a lot away from what you normally do. You kind of simplify some things. And it worked out very good for them. But getting back to where I'm going, yesterday I saw some things early in that game. And I can easily say about the Cowboys where I could see, and for sake of conversation, you can arguably say that they kind of wore down. But in the beginning of that game, they got a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy. And just noticing what I noticed, he looked a little rattled. Okay? He looked a little rattled when they were getting pressure on him. If we put that situation and have it be the Eagles on the other side, I think the Eagles can do some things. And I say this because, like I just mentioned, I think a little bit later in that game, as that game wore on, the Cowboys kind of wore down a little bit on defense, or whatever happened. Dan Quinn didn't keep the same style, whatever. Something happened, and they didn't continue to get a lot of pressure on Purdy as they did in the very start of the game. But again, like I just mentioned about the Eagles, like the Eagles are playing with like 2 starting defensive lines. So it's not like you get any, or you get a lack of, if any, slacking on that front, because the pressure can continue. Let's see, I believe the Eagles can score enough on the 49ers that the defense and the Eagles defense can get enough stops on the 49ers. Yeah, and that's that thing I always said about the Eagles. Yeah, great point, Rich. That's that thing I've always said about the Eagles, too. I said if we can just manipulate points, I've always said the defense will always keep us in it. It's just up to the offense now to sustain drives and make sure we get points. And we're to the point now. Yeah, Lonnie, that defense was tired by the fourth quarter. That's what I said. I think they broke down. One of the things about the Eagles' offense now is it's weapons. Like, you got a mean, nasty front, top 5 tight end, top 5 wide receiver on one side, top 10 wide receiver on the other side, running back who had a career year, MVP candidate at quarterback. People will definitely, or 49ers fans will definitely argue the Deebo Samuel and the Christian McCaffrey factor. Christian McCaffrey suffering from a nagging calf injury. You saw how, I won't fully say take away, but you saw how you can play Deebo and make it difficult for them to get the ball to him. I will say that. I think our overall secondary is better than the Dallas Cowboys' overall secondary. They may have us at the linebackers. I think they got some pieces on that defensive line, but I think our defensive lines are better. And again, I saw, like I said, I saw some things where, the pressure, in my opinion, got to Brock Purdy a little bit. He still had a decent game yesterday, but I felt like, it's kind of like you got that feeling that one of those games was coming. They kind of got it together. They adjusted, made some adjustments. Got back in that game, and they won 19-12. The Cowboys had a chance in the end. We'll talk about that on the other side, if you will. They, like I said, it's just some things that I saw that could work in favor for the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, with the offense, I think the offense can score some points. I think they can do some things against that secondary. And I think the way that we run the ball, we can loosen it up for our receivers and our tight end. Also, one thing I do think that we will definitely need to do is we will definitely need to possibly keep a running back in on some chip plays, things of that nature, so Jalen doesn't have to run a lot. 49ers secondary is beatable if the Eagles O-line can keep Hurts on. Yeah, that's what I just said. They're beatable, absolutely. Lonnie says this is the best secondary since the West Waters, Brian Douglas. Yeah, absolutely. But I think, the Eagles, the offense, like I said, we can do some things. But again, what I was saying is I think we'll need to chip, maybe have a tight end, go some double tight end to help out with the chip. Because Hufanga, when he blitzes, it seems like he times his blitzes a lot, almost perfect. a lot of times. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. The other stuff, like I said, is beatable. And I'm sure that our coaching staff, where they are right now, will see all of this and watch this tape. And I'm sure they're going to see that how pressure on Brock Purdy early in that game yesterday, if they can consistently do that, it increases our chances, I believe. I believe we have a very good chance of winning anyway. But I think if they follow the film and do what they do, and if we can get that pressure and keep that pressure for most of the game, then we have increased our chances of winning that game and moving on to the Super Bowl. Folks, this is your boy Sports Rap D. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, first break of the day. When I come back, we're going to pick back up on this 49ers Dallas game because I want to talk a little bit about Dallas. And then we'll get into the other game, the Bengals Bills game, and we'll talk a little bit about, maybe even go back to that Jags Chiefs game. But we'll see what happens. You're listening to Sports Rap right here, Heat 100 Radio. It's your boy, Sports Rap D. Again, I'll be back simultaneous. Everybody that was on Instagram, I'm taking a quick break. I'm coming back. I'll let y'all know when I'm back, and y'all should know when I'm back. So enjoy a little bit of music if you hear. Laugh now, cry later. Drake. Talk to y'all on the other side in just a minute.